Well, I get to share a story from my first summer. So, yeah, I remember I trained here at War Memorial back in 1900. It was a good year, and I was recruited pretty late. Was anybody recruited pretty late in the game? Yeah, I heard about Southwestern during finals, and so when I came to Nashville, I was definitely behind the rest of the group. And I managed to get through sales school. It's kind of a blur. I do remember the next part we're going to do on recognition. I watched some of the people come across the stage, and the only goal I had was I thought, I'd like to do that. I'd like to be top salesperson. But I didn't have all my goals broken down. I didn't know all my material. But I was still kind of fired up. And Thursday night was the night that we found out where we were going to go and who we were going to live with. Some of you guys, is that going to happen for you here shortly? And they had a big atlas, a big giant atlas where they were like flipping pages because it was a big mystery where we were going to go. We had no idea where in the U.S. we might end up. So, and our group was from Kansas. So, yeah, so any page they turned to, we would be excited about. As long as it wasn't Kansas, we were like, yeah. Anyway, so they said, we found out we were going to go to upstate New York, and we were like, yeah, woohoo, New York, woo. We're very excited. And they said, okay, you three ladies, you guys are going to be living in Syracuse. And they're like, yay, Syracuse, the Orangemen. And they said, you three guys, your roommates. They're like, yeah, high five, woo. You're going to be in Buffalo, like Buffalo, yeah. And they're cheering. And it got down to a few of us left. And I'm like, yeah, how's it going? Good to Jim, Dave. All right, where are we going? They said, you guys are going to Malone. We were like, yeah, Malone. Can we borrow that atlas? And we were like, Malone. We had to use the little grid, G47, and we followed it up right, and Malone was a town of about 5,000 people right on the border of Canada. I mean, we're talking upstate New York, probably 8 miles south of Canada. I'm not making that up. Montreal was just a little north of that. So, yeah, we did the big drive and made it to Malone. And the first place we got to was kind of like a welcome center kind of place. And they had souvenirs. So we looked around. We're like trying to figure out, okay, we need to get settled in, find a place to stay. And we saw these T-shirts that said, "We're alone in Malone." So I was like, I got to have one of those. So we bought those. That was a good investment. It was a small town. And, we got settled in, got our place to stay, everything worked out. And I remember the first week, I was on foot. So how many of you are going to be on foot this summer? So awesome. So as the week went along and I was walking about 10 or 12 miles a day outside of town in this, the county area, I decided I was going to set my goal to get a bicycle because I was doing a whole lot of walking. And a heat wave had kind of been hitting up there, so it was really hot for upstate New York. It was about 85 degrees, and I didn't have any sunscreen. I know 85 doesn't sound like a lot, but it was, for them, it was hot. I was getting sunburned during the day. After walking miles and miles, I was coming home at night, and I had kind of like blowouts on my tennis shoes, and I wasn't rotating my bag. We didn't have the cool ergonomic bags with the double shoulder strap. I just had kind of a single unit, and so I wore it on one side pretty much all day. So after you're doing that, like 10 hours, you get the kind of Quasimodo look, So you'll see some older alums in airports who are like, you're like, hey, did you sell books? They go, yeah, how did you know? What do you do? Oh, I'm a bell ringer. Okay, that's awesome. Hunchback reference. All right. Anyway, I'll be here all week. So I was kind of sore. I was kind of tired. But here's the good news. I was actually selling books. Now, that would be a shock if we had videotaped what I was doing in people's homes, because I was forgetting I would come home at night and look at my sales talk and go, I didn't do that paragraph, I didn't do that page. What the? Didn't do an intro. I'd made up a new approach. Woo, bad. But I was having fun with people. People liked me, so they looked for opportunities to say yes. So I think that went a long way. I remember I sold to 2 or 3 customers a day, managed to about make pace setters the first week, made $500. And so on Saturday, I also found a bicycle. So I thought, well, you know, for a first week, even though I'm tired, sore, sunburned, I found a bike and I made some money. So yeah, kind of like Aaron mentioned, you know, like, okay, now next week I'm going to start selling some stuff, you know. So guess what happened on Monday? I was like, okay, enough of this, you know, messing around. I'm going to put that sales talk together and get out there and get it, make some serious money. So where did my sales go that Monday? I didn't bottom out, but I remember I sold one Mufu, which was about 3 units for a total of $15 profit. Ching. And was a little discouraged when I was riding home on my bike. At the beginning of the day, I was all excited about my bike because I had velocity. I was like, over hills, you know, my hair was blowing. Yeah, check me out. I could skip houses, woo! And the end of the day, after riding the bike for like 13 hours, you know, if you haven't ridden a bike for a long time, and then the bike I got was this like 10 speed, but it only had like 6 gears that worked. It didn't work perfectly. And it had one of those little seats, those plastic wedgie seats that they build in France or something, you know? They're just like, So when I came home after having my big day in production, I came home and I got off my bike and I was like, oh, I was sore in a new place. So kind of going up the stairs, I was like, oh man, that was hard. And I remember I opened the door to where we were staying. We stayed in this big bedroom. We each had beds. And one of the beds was made. And I thought, what's wrong with this picture? We don't make our beds. We're not courteous. So I went over, I kind of looked around, and Dave, the student manager, wasn't there. And I went over to the closet, and there were more hangers available. And I was like, what? So I called out to Dave. He was downstairs kind of like making a sandwich. And I was like, Dave. He's like, what? I said, where's Jim? He's like, I'll be right there. And I'm like, oh, no. And I just realized one of my roommates had just, you know, fellow first year, just checked out, gone, vamoose. And so Dave's running up the stairs, you know, he's like, okay, I've got to be a student manager now. You can see it in his face. He's like wheels are turning. And he's like, I made you a sandwich. I'm like, thanks. So we're like sitting on, our beds were across from each other, so we're like sitting down. He's like, okay, I know this is really weird. We weren't ready for this. We've got to think it's 3 positive things. And I'm negative, folks. I'm just like, well, got more room for our clothes. And he's like, I said, the rent just went up. And he's like, okay, wait, that's, you know, so he goes, let me take it from here. So he kind of did a pep talk, and the essence was that it could only get better from here. So, you know, like, this is the low point of our summer. We're going to finish this thing, and we can make it work. And so, you know, I was like, I believed him. I go, okay, this is the worst day, okay, right, it goes up from here. So the next morning, we woke up, and I don't know if you guys have started to get used to the alarm now, where you actually wake up a few seconds before it goes off. Has that started to happen? For some of you, not, but you'll get to where you don't really need the alarm. But this morning, the alarm was buzzing, and we were like, what the? We're like hitting stuff, and it was dark in the room. So we're like, we've set the alarm wrong, something's wrong, and we get up, and this is what I hear on the window. Yeah, that's not a gas leak. That is rain on the window. Steady rain, a chilling rain. So I'm looking outside going, oh yeah, I'm on a bike. So we go to breakfast, and we're sitting there, and Dave's trying to be positive. I'm sitting in the booth. There's an empty seat where Jim used to sit. I'm kind of like, you know. Dave's like, it's going to be a great day, and I'm drawing my maps, kind of like, okay. I actually do have the map in my office that I kept it, where I was like, I'm going to work here today, and I'm like, it's still raining, just right on the side of the, and it was gray, and it was cold. When we got finished with breakfast, Dave got his car, he had a car, and I pulled out my bike, because I just kept my bike at the restaurant, and I remember just sitting there on my bike doing this, just watching my breath, the condensation, because it had gone from 85-ish degrees down to under 40 overnight. I mean, think of where I am, people. I'm up on the border of Canada. So cold fronts mean different things there in the summer. So it was cold. I was like, wow, I'm going to get wet. I could be cold soon. And Dave drives up, and he's, he's kind of like, he rolls down the window, go get him, man. I'm like, dude, it's like, stay warm, Dave. How's the heater? Is it working? He's like, you bet. He's flipping on all the switches, windshield wipers. Yeah, you stay dry. Have a good. He drives off. So here's now you're thinking, okay, obviously you have a poncho or some kind of rain gear. No, the only thing I brought was a full-length rust color velour warm-up suit. Can you picture that, like a sweatsuit? I didn't know what to bring. I didn't think I'd need a lot of warm clothes because it was a summer job. So that's all I had for warmth. All right. And then for a hat, I had this hat that was built of denim, sewn together with a little pocket on the top. These hats are not popular today, so I was asked to provide a picture of the hat. This is the hat. Thank you. Thank you so much. So that hat didn't provide lots of rain protection, but it did have a zipper pocket on the top, which will be important in just a few minutes. So that's me with the groovy mustache here, and this is Kim. We used to make out. All right. Okay. Stay on target. Stay on target. Okay. So I pull out in the rain, and my obviously it's hard to ride a bike with an umbrella, so I don't have that. So I'm getting pretty wet pretty fast, and my velour absorbs moisture. And so I'm just like sloshing along, just like, oh my gosh. And I get so cold. Have your lips ever like turned blue and teeth chatter? I mean, that was not helping my approach. And my hair was all matted down. It was longer, and I had my, and when I went to a house, I'd gone through these puddles on my rain, in the rain. So when you go through puddles, you don't have a fender to protect yourself. You've seen little kids with little muddle thing, like, so I had these like stripes on my back, and it was kind of caked in my hair. And I was like, why am I not getting in houses? So I was like, Ms. Jones, I was just talking to some people about couple days ago, and she would look at this, and she'd look at her couch and go, just stay out here. And I was like, okay, I don't even have to come in. I'll just show you right here. Oh, you close the door? Okay, well, you have a nice day. I'll just be out here. If you see me, just stop, wave, and honk, and, bad. I honestly do not remember sitting down inside a house for just hours, and I was freezing. So things weren't getting better, but like Dave promised. But later that afternoon, I was riding along, and I was out in the country, so I wasn't like in suburbia, but I was kind of negotiating the shoulder of a road and kind of repeating whatever names I could remember, or trying to be positive. And a truck came by, and I was concentrating, and so he gave me a little courtesy honk, kind of a little just like I'm here. And I went, what? And then my bag strap shifted off, which, see, I'm riding a bike. There's handlebars. Ooh. So that kind of changed the front. So I'm like, oh. So I'm kind of lying there in the grass, sort of in a little ditch. It's the rain. That's refreshing. And I'm getting up, and I'm putting my books back in, I'm like, wow. And this guy's like, are you okay? And I was like, nothing to see here, just move along. Just building my resume. Just, yeah. Bad. So he leaves. I've noticed that I'm bleeding just lightly from my knee down. It's trickling down into my knee-high tube socks that I'm wearing. Because it was back then very popular. So anyway, I go back to work, and this, at this point, I am so frustrated because I'm having another 0 day, essentially. So I thought, I am just going to go find a place. I'm going to go find an area where there are not people, because I'm just going to go think about my summer, okay? So, managers, good idea? Nope, but you'll do it. Can't help it. So I went and found a house that they were excavating, and out in front, they were building it. There was a big dirt pile, and I thought, well, that looks inviting. No one's around. So I put my bike down and just sort of sat in this dirt pile. And just sat. I was probably there at least 45 minutes. I was mad. I mean, tears were coming to my eyes. I wanted to choke my student manager. I hated the company. I was just like, how did I get into this? This is ridiculous. I'm 1,000 miles away from home. I'm bleeding into my tube socks. I got, I'm freezing. My friends are going to go out tonight, and I'm going to be talking to people that don't want to talk to me. I mean, it's just like horrible self-talk, but I didn't even care. So after a while, I thought, and I remembered. What I'd done is in sales school on Thursday night, I'd recommend this. They gave us a little card with a poem on it, and it was something about not quitting. And on the other side, I wrote myself a note, and it was personalized, but I wrote myself a note for just such an emergency. And it said, you wrote this note when you were rational, comma. You're reading this note because you become irrational. And then I listed everybody back home that made fun of me, their names, and I remembered vividly. Some of the guys in my fraternity just had a blast. They will see you in a few weeks, just horrible. Your friends probably wouldn't do that, but I had a few friends who were particularly nasty about it. So I unzipped my secret compartment. I pulled out my secret emotional weapon, and I read that and I was like, oh man. And it reminded me, I thought, what would it be like? I mean, I wasn't going to quit. I was just kind of thinking about quitting, but I wasn't really going to quit. I was just kind of thinking about it. So when I was reading that, I thought, what would it be like to run a little Blu-ray of what it would be like to really get on a bus, go all the way home, and then maybe have to see those guys again. And just pull up, and they're like, hey, dude, you're back. Welcome. Hey, let me help you with your luggage. So how was your summer internship? And I'm like, wow, you were only gone 3 weeks. That's pretty good. It's pretty short. Show us your big check. I was like, that would have been a bad conversation, right? So that movie was so nasty in my head, and I was actually pretty cold. I folded up, put it back, and zipped it back up, and I thought, I'm going to go back to work. And I did. And this would be a great Southwestern story if the next 6 houses that evening bought, and it was just glorious, and what a comeback, Rocky. No. Didn't happen. I did get in a few demos, and I did manage to sell the last house that night. They bought My Fun with Words dictionary, 3 units. Ching! Another huge day. But the cool thing was this was the coolest family I could have met at exactly the right time I needed it. Managers, how many of you have been working, had a horrible time, and then you went to one more house and you met somebody really cool? Did you? Yeah, look around. Almost everybody. God blesses you if you just kind of take a few more steps and go to one more house. And that family, I mean, the mom was like, come on in. What are you wearing velour for? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, here, put that in the dryer. Feed him. And I was like eating and demoing. A cow is a large, heavy animal that eats green grass. I was doing all that. They're like, we'll take it, whatever it is. We don't even have kids. We'll buy it. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And then the dad took my bike and put it in the back of his truck and drove me back, 4 or 5 miles to my headquarters, which was very cool. So managers, if you had a family like that just goes out of their way, are those people way more prevalent than the few nasty folks that you meet? Managers, yeah? Okay. So that was, that dirt pile thing was sort of the turning point of my summer, and things got way better after that. I had a totally different attitude. July 4th, when I sold the equivalent of 13 solid Southwestern Advantage sets, would you think I was liking my job a little better? Yeah, I was like a little Southwestern tattoo. Check me out. Yeah, I'm a lifer. But I was excited. But the dirt pile, bad day. But what people do the first 3 weeks are your training. And what I was doing is I took one bad day. This is the reason people quit usually in the first 3 weeks if they're going to do it. Because they do what I was doing. They do, okay, one horrible day times 70 more, I'm in hell. They go, this will not change. This will be like this every day. And then they'll just completely lose perspective. You know what I'm saying? So this is a lot like school. So think about school. At the beginning of the semester or term, it's easy. And then it gets harder. You got like midterms. And as it goes by, then you got finals and research papers and, all that. So degree of difficulty increase. Southwestern Advantage summer, same thing, but it's this. It's inverted. So finals is the next 3 weeks. Next 3 weeks are finals. And God is composing perfect final exams for all of you. That will test you right where you need it to help you grow up. So he's up there like right now going, let's see, Jason. He doesn't appreciate his parents. We'll take care of that. Week 2, day 3. And you're just like, and you're like, whoa! And you're like, what? Why? Okay? He's just designing it. So when it happens, you can sit on your metaphorical dirt pile or wherever you are. I don't know where you'll be. And, curse things and weep and feel sorry for yourself. And that's just, I guess, part of the plan. Or you can go, you know what? This is part of my final exam. Okay? This is on purpose. And you just get up and you go back. And as you go along, it's not like the summer gets easier, but you get smarter, right? And the degree of difficulty goes down. And like the end of the summer, it's like true, false. The exams are easier, right? Is everybody with me on that? So I'm going to tell you that 2 things that you're going to feel, and then I'll be done. 1, you don't have to write this down. You'll remember it. Oh, you'll feel it, friends. You'll remember it. How many of you are in sports? We asked this at the beginning of the week, okay? Think about the sport that you do, and remember when you took the season off, and then you started to get in shape again. You remember that? You remember how those first few workouts you just pulled everything. You're doing suicides, you're doing wind sprints, you're dry heaving after football practice. I took 30 years off of swimming just to really taper. And then they built a beautiful facility, 50-meter Olympic pool by my house, and I walked in one day, I was like, yeah, I'm going to join the Masters. Now, guess what my first practice was like? I only did like 2,000 yards. But I came out of there, and I literally couldn't brush my teeth. I'd pull all my lats, and so I'm at home that night, brushing my teeth. And I had said, Katie, help me out. Thank you. Oh, that hurts. Okay. You remember how bad it was when you were pulling muscles? You're going to pull muscles next week and the second week and the third week. You're going to pull emotional muscles. But guess what? If you keep working out, what happens to those muscles? They get stronger, and so you can take it, and you do better. And why don't you quit if you're doing a sport? Well, because out here is state or the big tournament you're working towards. And that's what you realize there's a bigger goal that's helping you work through that. You got to remember that. What you've been through in sports will absolutely help you this summer. Totally. It's the same thing. You did that, you could do this. You just have to be patient. Second thing is you're going to feel awkward, okay? Awkward your first week or so. And I took advantage of it. I just admitted it. I just told people, yeah, it's my first week. And they're like, we got that sense. So, I remember going up to houses, and I was like, my approach had mutated so bad. I was just like, she's like, they'd come out, and they're like, okay, whatever you're selling, I'm not interested. And I'm like, I gave a lady, I remember giving her the timeout. I don't recommend you do that, but I was like, excuse me. I've only been doing this for like 3 days. So, I just need to practice. Can we sit out here and can I just practice on you? And then she's like, sure. So, I was a desperate man, but when I was in houses, I was having fun with people, and that helps you. But you're going to feel awkward. Like, remember, did music? Who's done, like, played a musical instrument? Okay. I played keyboards. So I remember you remember when you were first learning your instrument? Remember how awkward you felt? Because they gave you basic, boring C major scales. Remember? Okay? So what we've done this week is we've taught you some sales scales. Basic. No sharps and flats, just basic selling scales. And then, before you're ready completely, we're going to make you do 30 recitals a day. So you're sitting in a house going, okay, here we go. And they're like, go ahead. And you're like, da-na-na-na. Oh, hold on a second. Da-na-na-na-na. Oh, man. And they're just looking at you like, what is this? And you're like, oh, man. So I just embraced it and said, yep, I'm bad at this. So bear with me. Whatever. You will feel awkward. So you're going to pull muscles emotionally. You're going to feel awkward. But you can do this if you go to another house. If you go to another house beyond what you think you can do, you will be blessed. And you will bless other people. So I encourage you, keep going. Yeah? The pain is temporary. The pain is temporary. Work through it. All right.